Welcome to the video. My name's Steven. In this video, I'm going to show you 12 things that you might not know about advertising or that you might think is true about advertising that actually isn't true at all. So, today we're going to be going over everything you know about advertising and why it is wrong. If you like what you see, subscribe to the channel. I make videos like this all the time, and let's go ahead and get into it. So first thing you need to understand is that leads are not customers. A lot of advertising agencies will try to sell you on this idea that you will generate hundreds, if not thousands of leads when you work with them. And the problem is, when you're trying to optimize for generating leads for your business, you are not generating customers. So you can generate leads for $10 a piece, spend $1,000 and generate 100 leads. But if none of those turn into customers, your advertising efforts did not work. So it's very, very important to understand that leads are not actually your customers. They are just a phone number and an email. And to dive deeper into this, you have to understand that leads are human beings with thoughts, emotions, and their own lives. So understand, they are human beings, right? Or at least they should be. If you're running your advertising properly, you will have leads that are actually real people. And if they are real people, you have to understand that they have thoughts, they have emotions, and they have their own life. Meaning that these people are not waiting around all day, every day for you to call them and so they can purchase your service. They have their own things going on. They have their own life. They got to pick up their kids from school. They have to go to work tomorrow. They want to watch that new TV show episode that came out, right? They have their own feelings. They have their own experiences that they've gone through. Understand that you have to treat leads like a customer. So I know before I said that leads are not actually your customer. However, you need to treat them like they are your customer or they could become your customer, right? And so understand that people are not always ready to buy. There's a big term that goes around in marketing that is buy, die, or unsubscribe. You have to understand that you are going to probably have to follow up with leads a lot more than you might have originally thought because, again, they're not sitting there waiting for you to call them to work with you. So if you don't have the proper sales team in place or the proper follow-up in place to actually have a real conversation with the leads, then understand that all you were doing is just wasting your money, you're wasting your time, and you're wasting their time as well. In fact, I've had experiences before where a sales team did not reach out to the leads. They called them maybe the first time that the lead came in. They never followed up via text. They never followed up via email. You know, automation and AI can only take you so far, but you still need that human connection. And if you're not following up, I've actually had times in the past where leads have reached out and said, hey, you know, I've actually given up on working with you guys because I haven't had a real conversation with a real human being. I've been trying to have a conversation, but nobody actually gets in touch with me. So when you start to treat the lead as a human being, you then start to understand that they're not sitting around all day waiting to purchase your service. They want to buy from you. That's why they filled out the form. However, they forget they have things going on. When you start to treat them like they're real people instead of just a metric that you're getting from Facebook, that is when you can actually close more people and see a better return on your ad spend. Now, speaking of return on ad spend, let's talk about why ROAS is not all that it's made out to be. Return on ad spend, or ROAS, is this concept of how much money you made versus the amount of money that you spend on ads. If you're worried about return on ad spend, you're worried about the short-term metric. You're worried about today. What did we get out of this today? When you're running ads, you have to understand that you are trying to build an acquisition system for your business, which means we are looking to acquire customers. I would rather you ask the question, what is this customer going to be worth in our business in the next 3 years, than figure out what your return on ad spend is. Because let's say you spend $1,000 on ads and you make $3,000 in return, you have a 3-to-1 return on ad spend. But let's say each one of those customers, you got 6 customers, so they all spent $500. If they all spent $500, but over the course of the next 2 years, they all end up spending 10 grand with you, then you made $60,000 off of $1,000 in ad spend. And so your lifetime value to customer acquisition cost, or LTV to CAC ratio, is a 60-to-1. If you're worried about return on ad spend only, this might make you turn off your best performing ad. Because if return on ad spend, say we split the 2 ads into 2 different creatives, right? and one ad creative, your return on ad spend was a 3-to-1, and one had a 6-to-1. But the one that had the 3-to-1 ended up bringing you more revenue long term. If you're worried about return on ad spend, you might turn off the ad that's generating you the 3-to-1 because it has a lower return on ad spend, versus the 6-to-1 that might not have actually generated you the same results. So understand, advertising takes patience. Okay, I didn't put this in here, but this kind of applies in the same way. Cost per lead is very similar to this too. You could have one ad have a $4 cost per lead and the other one have a $10 cost per lead, and you think, let's turn off the one with the $10 cost per lead because the $4 cost per lead is bringing us more leads. In reality, you're just wasting your money because maybe the $10 ad is actually bringing you more quality buyers. So understand, you have to think bigger. You have to think bigger than just ROAS. And that's like the guiding principle here with everything we're going to be talking about today. Understand that some of these metrics, some of these short-term goals that you might have with your advertising are not actually what's going to bring you real revenue into the business and develop a predictable forecast for what your business will look like scaling over the next coming years. When you focus on stuff like this, you're focused on the short term. ROAS is a good metric, and it's important to keep it in your business and look at it, but understand that this isn't the game changer for you. Lifetime value to customer acquisition cost is. Now, to move on to the next one, cheap leads equal cheap customers, right? Understand that, and I had mentioned this with the cost per lead a second ago, cheap leads equal cheap customers. If you are purchasing leads for cheap, understand that there is a good chance you are acquiring everybody as a lead, and then everybody doesn't end up becoming a purchasing customer, because when you purchase quantity, you might not be getting quality, right? So it's important that we put the proper hoops or the precautions in place to actually acquire the right leads. This means adding more questions to the form, making them book appointments, making them put down deposits when they are going to book an appointment with you or come in for a service, because we want to get people who are actually serious buyers. You do not want to be wasting your time. You especially do not want to ruin your sales team's drive or motivation to actually continue calling leads and having conversations. And this is why we want to pay more for leads. So understand, the more or the higher ticket that your service is, the more you are going to pay for leads. And that's okay, right? Because again, we want to turn these leads into buyers. We want these leads to actually turn into customers that stick around with us long term. And if we're going to do that, then I would rather spend $300 acquiring a lead, but knowing there's a 50% chance that that lead is going to end up buying our service and becoming a customer that sticks around long term, than paying $25 for 50 leads and then none of those leads actually end up purchasing or care about our service. So understand, now you can still get cheap leads, and I have videos on my channel on how to get leads for cheaper if you're just starting out. But to give you like a brief overview, you're going to be acquiring customers for a lead magnet. Just make sure if you're acquiring customers for a lead magnet that they can actually turn into qualified buyers, right? So your lead magnet is a low front end offer that gets you customers on the back end, but just know that they're going to have to do a lot more, and not every single one of those people are going to turn into buying customers. So you're going to have to do a lot more on the back end. However, we still want to, if you can, pay for higher quality leads, right? So pay for higher quality leads. If you can't, you can always run lead magnets and get customers via lead magnets. But again, guiding principle, cheap leads equals cheap customers. Now, this is a big one that a lot of people don't like to do, and nobody likes to hear this, but you have to understand, you need to be spending more money on ads, okay? Always, always, always be willing to spend more on ads. Look at advertising as a test to see what is going to work for you long-term to scale your business. In fact, I would argue that most people are not going to find out what is working in their advertising campaign until they spend at least $10,000 on ads. Understand, you're going to have to spend a lot of money. They say, as the saying goes, spend money to make money, right? You're going to have to spend a lot of money on this to see what's working, to actually make something work at scale so you can continue to grow your business. A lot of companies don't want to do this. A lot of people get scared at the actual cost of advertising, understand you are going to spend that money anyway, right? And I've seen a lot of guys do this, especially in the contracting space. There's a fear to spend more money on ads. It's expensive to spend more money, but let's go get a $70,000 truck and wrap our brand around it. And literally all that money could have been put into advertising to acquire new customers, but we got a new truck, we put our brand around it, and now my face is on it, and it's an ego thing, right? And I'm just saying it bluntly how it is. A lot of times it's an ego thing. Oh, I want trucks around the town with my branding on it. Why not acquire more customers? Because here's the thing, when you spend more money on ads, you acquire more customers, then you can wrap the car. Then you can get the more expensive equipment. But you need to get more customers into the pipeline. And so it's very, very important that we are doing what is required to bring in new customers. You always want to have new customers in your database, and wrapping that truck is not going to do that, or paying for that vacation is not going to do that. In fact, I'll tell you a very quick story. When I first started out running ads for my own business, I remember I was having a hard time acquiring customers for myself, and one of my other buddies who also runs a marketing agency came to me and said, you should run paid ads. And I said, well, I don't know if I want to do that. I don't really have the money for it. I think at the time I genuinely had like maybe $300 to my name. And he said, Steven, just spend the money on ads. And I remember I said, but what about eating? Like, I don't have food to eat. And he said, don't eat, spend the money on ads. Sure enough, I spent my last $300 on ads, and I didn't acquire any customers off of that $300 in spend, but I had gotten enough proof. I think I had gotten a couple I was getting leads at the time for like $20 a piece. So I'd gotten a good bunch of leads. And I remember I had some conversations, and once I had done that, I had some lead flow coming in, and I realized that this advertising thing was going to work. It made me feel really, really good knowing that I was waking up in the morning and there were appointments booked on my calendar, and I was speaking to real people about my service. And so sure enough, once I did this and I had some appointments booked in my calendar, I then realized, oh, this might actually work for me. And so the next time that I had some money come in, I put all of it into advertising. Not just a little bit of it, I put all of the money that I made back into the advertising. And that month, I had actually acquired 5 new customers and scaled my business to $10,000 a month, which is not something that I had previously done before. And since then, the business has only been on an upwards trajectory because I made that one little tweak to my business and decided, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and make the commitment. I'm going to spend more money on ads. Right? Since then, I've spent loads of money on ads. In fact, some months we'll end up spending $300, $400 a day on advertising just to acquire new customers, because I know that the more money we put into advertising, the more we're going to make out of it, right? And I also know that as I spend more money on ads, I am going to see what's working in my market and then be able to iterate and make better advertising out of it. Okay. Also understand that you can write advertising off on your taxes. So basically it's free money that you get to throw back into the business. And when you hire the right agency or you have the right team behind your marketing efforts, that is how you can actually grow and scale the business. That is how you can actually build a platform where you want to spend money on ads and you can actually see real results from your advertising. So let's go ahead and move into the next one. Marketing solves problems in your business. Understand, once you get past that initial threshold, and the threshold is all dependent on you. It's what we had talked about before, how much you're willing to spend on ads. Once you get past spending, $50, $100 a day, which I wouldn't even recommend starting out that low, but a lot of people want to start there to get their feet wet, and I completely understand. But once you get past spending small numbers on advertising, and you start spending big dollars, like $500 to $1,000 a day on ads, understand that this is where you will find that marketing is going to solve problems for your business. Even at a lower level, it can still solve problems, especially if you have a business that does not require a lot of ad spend to acquire a customer. Say you have a $300 service, you can acquire customers for $15 a piece, right? Once you're acquiring customers and you have leads coming in every day, understand that marketing is going to solve problems. And I didn't write this, but not only will it solve problems in your business, but it'll solve problems in your life, right? When you're running ads, if you have 15 leads coming in every single day, you're going to find out really quick which one of those salesmen is not doing a good job. You're going to find out really quick why customers aren't sticking around. You're going to find out really quick how you can do fulfillment quicker. You have to put pressure on the problem in order to see it grow. Whenever you were trying to make gains in the gym, you say we're doing biceps. You do bicep curls and you put stress on the muscle, and that is how the muscle gets bigger. The same thing applies in business. When you put stress on the business, when you have tons of leads coming in every single day, that's when you learn how to solve problems in your business. I tell people this all the time, and I've even made this same mistake too. We all like to try and find every little problem inside of our business and figure out what we need to do to solve them. If you run ads, you're going to find those problems way quicker, and you're actually going to find the real root problems and not the problems that you might think exist, right? We all think it's, oh, well, maybe our fulfillment needs to be better. And so you can spend, for example, in my industry, I might spend a couple days building out this new form intake thing for my customers so that they can get better results with their leads. But regardless, that wasn't the thing that was preventing me from scaling. What was preventing me from scaling was maybe sales. So when I run ads and I see that leads are coming in, now all of a sudden I can start to make changes from sales, from a sales perspective, and not just from a fulfillment perspective, right? I was focused on fulfillment instead of fixing sales. We want to fix the things that we need to fix with our advertising efforts, and you will find that through advertising. We need to fix the things that are required. There are certain things that will be required to fix within our business, and we will only find that through running ads. Also, like I said, it will solve problems in your life. First of all, on a very simple level, when you run ads and you're making a lot of money, you can solve problems with money, all right? Money doesn't solve everything, but you can solve certain problems by having extra revenue coming into your business. But more importantly, when you have leads coming in all day, when your calendar's filled with consultations, when you have crews running around the city 24 hours a day, when you have these things going on, all of a sudden, it changes how you behave as an entrepreneur because you're no longer sitting in your office waiting for the day to end so you can feel productive. You are now actually making sure you get your work done. You're going to the gym early in the morning, you're coming home, you're feeling good. It makes you feel good. I've always felt the best when I'm running ads at a very, very high cost per day, because every single time I'm running ads at a high cost per day and I have leads coming in and I have sales calls and my calendar is booked up and I have onboardings going on, guess what? It changes the way I behave. I'm now making sure I get to the gym on time. I'm scheduling my days properly. I'm prepping for meetings. I'm having more conversations with my clients. I'm hiring people, right? There's tons of things that are getting taken care of, but I'm not sitting around watching TV or drinking beers with my friends because I don't have time for that. I just do not have the time for it. And I've seen this happen in some of my clients' lives as well. It's some great character development that I've seen from some of my clients. In fact, I had a client I just hired recently who, when we first started out, he was going on trips regularly and he was just messing around with his friends. He's a younger guy, right? Just doing like young stuff. And I told him, I said, let's start running ads and watch. I promise you, you're going to change your behavior. Sure enough, I call him 2-3 weeks later and he doesn't pick up the phone. I call him another time, he doesn't pick up the phone. Finally, he calls me back at 11 o'clock at night. He said, I just finished my last job of the day. I've been working all day. I've been working all week. I got more calls tomorrow morning. I only have a little bit of time to talk. It changed his life. He's still making sure he gets to the gym on time and eating his meal preps and doing all the self-improvement habits that he was doing before. But now he's making sure it's getting done on time because he's packed, right? But he doesn't have time to go do stupid stuff. This is something a football coach told me when I was a younger kid. You know, you do football practice, you go to football practice, you stay away from drugs, you stay away from alcohol, you stay away from parties because you're spending the back half of your day after school at football practice, right? And I saw that. All the guys that stayed in football and did football, they didn't go out and party. They didn't go do drugs because they had things that they were working towards, a real goal, a real purpose. The guys that weren't at football practice, the guys that were skipping football practice were smoking weed and drinking on the weekends and partying. So understand, marketing solves problems in your business because it adds another layer into the business so that you can solve problems not just for the business, but also in your personal life too. This is a big one. Marketing plus sales is one system. Understand, a lot of people like to take these two and detach them from each other. So a lot of people like to say there's marketing and then there's sales. Understand this needs to be one system. And if you're going to detach them, understand they need to be congruent with each other. So if you're running ads, you have a bunch of leads coming in, but you're not closing, then you need to find out why you're not closing and then fix it on the sales side and make the marketing match and be congruent with your sales team. So that might mean making it easier for the sales team to get around to the marketing if they're super busy, or having a new sales team or a new sales system that can actually prevent you from losing leads and wasting time and money with your marketing. So understand, you have to build a sales system that is congruent with your marketing efforts, okay? Or this doesn't work. Sales is a funnel, or marketing and sales is a funnel. You need to treat it this way, right? And so you need to have the proper follow-up. You need to have the proper automations. You need to have AI in place. AI is getting very, very good. You need to have AI to respond to the customers. You need to have calendars set up. You need to have a reason for the customer to go through and have your entire sales cycle, to actually book appointments with your team, to have conversations, to do what is required to actually get the purchase service, to get the offer that you're giving them, right? You need to make sure you're doing this. So put these together, okay? You need to look at them as one big continuous funnel, okay? It's a sales funnel. It's a sales pipeline. It's not marketing. It's not sales. They're together. And when your marketing is doing something different than your sales is doing, you are then wasting money. You need to treat them as the same flow, okay? Now, understand, a marketing team can only take your efforts so far. So if you're currently running ads and you're working with a marketing team, you're getting leads and the leads look good, but they're not closing, understand you have a sales problem. And the problem is that your sales is not congruent with the marketing, okay? Sales has one idea and direction they're trying to go, and marketing has one idea and direction they're trying to go, and they're not on the same page. When these two are on the same page and they are one system instead of two separate systems, that is how you grow the business and make sure you don't waste money through your advertising efforts. The next one we want to do here is think macro, not micro. If you think micro, you're going to feel like you're wasting money at times. You're going to feel like you're making mistakes in the business. You're going to feel like your ads don't work. You're going to feel like your offer doesn't work, and you're going to change a bunch of things, and you're not going to get any results. Right now, I'm in the best physical condition I've ever been in my entire life. I'm in the middle of a cut, and I'm almost finished. I have gone from 25% body fat to right now I'm sitting at about 17%. The way that I was able to get here was because I had actually hired a coach to help me with my fitness goals, but we set one workout plan and one meal plan that I have had to stick to for the last 6 weeks, and I have seen significant progress during this cut. One meal plan, one workout plan. Both of those things together are macro. Those two macro things together are building and changing my body, okay? If I thought micro, I would keep making little tweaks to my meal plans. I would keep making little tweaks to my workout plans, trying to get better results because I'm so focused on what I look like in the mirror today versus the progress pics that I took months ago. The point I'm trying to make here is that when you are thinking about little day-to-day things, you're going to make changes that are too quick. When you make very, very quick changes in your marketing, you're not going to let Meta do the things required in order to find the right ad creatives and find the right messaging for your business. So understand, you need to give your advertising space to breathe. I've made this mistake plenty of times. In fact, I make this mistake with my own advertising efforts. I get all excited because, it's my money that's on the table. I'm trying to make tweaks and trying to see how I can improve it. All I did was waste money. I've done this plenty of times for myself, okay? In fact, this is why I've hired a media buyer to look and spend time on my ads, and I don't even like to look at my ads because if I start looking at my ads, I'm going to start making little tweaks. We're our own biggest critic, and I'm trying to make little changes here and there to improve my advertising efforts. Instead, I've hired a media buyer to let the media buyer make the changes because the media buyer is going to take a step back because he's not emotionally connected to the money that's being spent, and he's going to make better decisions. Like, this is for my business. I make this same mistake too. I go a day and two leads don't come in for 2 days, and I go, oh, it's not working. And so then I try to make little changes. You have to think macro. Again, it's what's this customer worth in my business over the next 3 years, not what's my return on ad spend. And when you start treating your advertising efforts like that, you can get better results. Now, understand acquiring customers is the most expensive thing that a business could do. So just know you are going to spend money on this. I always like to talk about this so that everyone is familiar and we're not wasting any time here. Acquiring customers is the most expensive thing that a business can do. You can either spend time or money acquiring customers. You can spend time by door knocking, by handing out pamphlets, by going and sitting in some venue with a table talking about your service, right? You can spend a lot of time doing it, or you can spend money. I'll ask you now, which one do you think rich people do, right? They spend their money. Understand, you should be spending money acquiring customers because it is cheaper than spending time. If you care about your time, which you should, because you don't ever get it back, right? So acquiring customers is the most expensive thing that a business can do. Just know it's going to cost a lot of money for you to acquire customers, but in the end, it will be worth it because a customer is worth more than a job. We're not getting jobs, we're getting customers. And so when you start to treat your advertising like that, you can get better results. Now, the next thing you need to know, it's not your advertising. It's not Facebook, it's not Mark Zuckerberg, it's the market. If your advertising is not working, it's because the market voted and the market said they don't like your advertising efforts. So understand, it's not that Facebook ads don't work, it's not that your advertising efforts don't work. I know you want to see results, but if you're not seeing results, understand the market voted. They looked at your ad creatives and they said, I don't like what you're selling us. I don't like what you're showing us. And so they don't end up purchasing. They don't end up becoming leads. You're only going to acquire leads when you make ad creatives that the market says, yes, this is what I want. If I walk into a school lunchroom with green bean casserole, like the green bean casserole that they hand out during lunch, and I say, hey, does anybody want this? I stand up on a table in the middle of the cafeteria, high school cafeteria, and say, does anybody want this green bean casserole? People will probably think I'm a fool for even standing up on the counter in the first place, but nobody's going to want it. Maybe one guy in the back might raise his hand and say, yeah, sure, I'll take it. If I walked into that same cafeteria with chicken minis from Chick-fil-A and I said, does anybody want these chicken minis? They're completely free. I would have a fight breakout in that cafeteria because everyone would want the chicken minis. You have to understand that when you're not getting leads, when people aren't converting, when you don't have people interested in your service, the market voted and said, you know what, I don't like that. You have this green bean casserole, it's nasty, I don't want it. If you can frame your advertising efforts in a way that shows people, hey, we have the chicken minis, we have the good stuff, come get it, everyone and their grandma is going to come get it. Maybe you might have the wrong product market fit too, so you might have to change your product or your market or change up your service a little bit to match the market, right? In fact, this is why research is so important. You need to understand what people in your market are purchasing to see if running ads is even right for your business. So you need to do the right research first. This is why hiring the right marketing agency is going to change your life, because if you do decide to hire an agency, they'll do research first. The right agency will go do research and see what makes sense to run ads for in your business. Say you run like a full service home remodeling company. If you're trying to remodel for decks, people might not want decks right now. People might want bathrooms. You just didn't know that if you didn't do the proper research first. So let's not waste money on advertising campaigns that people don't want and actually spend money in the right places by figuring out, one, research, what do people in your market actually buy? And two, by making creatives that your market is actually receptive to so that they come and purchase your service. So understand that the market votes whether something's good. You don't. So you might think the ad looks good, but you're not the target audience. Your market is the target audience. And if the market is interested in the service, they're going to purchase. Understand that they do not care about you. They care about getting results, right? Now, the last one, did we make money? This is binary. It is yes or no. Did you make money from your advertising efforts? If you didn't, we talked about all sorts of other things in this video that you can use and beliefs that you can use to change your advertising efforts to get better results. But you have to be asking the question, did we make money? Not did we book appointments, not did we generate leads, not is our advertising guy cool, not did the new intern that we hired that just graduated college, did she make cute videos for our TikTok? You need to ask yourself, did you make money from your advertising efforts? Yes or no? You should be able to understand very quickly. You need to have source tracking to know if you made money from your advertising. Okay, I know organic content plays a very big role, and organic content is important, and you need to be posting it. But understand, if your organic content isn't directly bringing you customers, then you're wasting your time, right? You can always have branding and awareness, that should always be out there. But you need to be asking yourself, specifically when it comes to paid ads, did you make money? You need to be able to source and track, are people coming from paid ads? And if they are coming from paid ads, did we make money off of those people? And if you didn't, it doesn't mean that advertising doesn't work. It doesn't mean that your marketing agency sucks. It doesn't mean that people don't want to buy from your business. It just means that you put ad creatives out there, you put an offer out there that people were not receptive to, and you are going to have to change that advertising strategy to get better results, or you're going to have to not run ads anymore. Because the truth is, there's a lot of guys, there's big fish that you're running ads against. If you're not ready to run the right offer and run the right creative to your audience, you're going to lose to your competition. This is why hiring a good marketing agency is the thing that is absolutely going to change your business. Every single one of these beliefs and principles we talked about in this video is what we do, what I have as a staple inside of the business to ensure that my clients get great results. If you want help with your advertising, if you want a good advertising team that's not going to lie to you and tell you, oh, ROAS is the most important thing in the world, cost per lead is the most important thing in the world, and who's actually going to help you answer this question with a yes. Did we make money? Yes, we did. You can click the first link in the description and book a strategy call with me to talk about your business and see what marketing can do for you. If you're not ready yet, that's completely okay. I have other videos on my channel that show you exactly how to start running ads for your business. If you want to see how to acquire more customers for your service business, click this video right here, and I'll see you in the next one.